a lot of people are picking the Oilers in 5. A lot of people are picking the Oilers in 6. And it's kind of the whole, if anyone can make this a short series, it's probably Edmonton. The flip side of that, though, what should concern the Oilers the most about this matchup, Frank? Because you covered the Canucks Predators series.
Yeah, I was at the first 5 games of the series. What I would say is the biggest enemy that the Oilers could have is themselves.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's been one of the staples of their last few playoff runs is, do you get into crazy turnovers? And I'm not saying like the singles or doubles. Are you giving up the grand slam home runs? Are you taking stupid penalties? Are you getting involved in things you shouldn't be? I know this sounds, and trust me when I say this, I'm not pandering to Oilers Nation, but I have a really hard time. And let me preface all this by saying I was an early Canucks adopter. I'm not patting myself on the back, but I picked that team to make the playoffs, when it wasn't a popular take. Then I said, first round, Canucks in 6. Boom, hit it. But my thing now is I'm looking really hard as someone that has seen all of the good that the Canucks have done and say, what's their path to win this series? How can you find and navigate a road that has the Canucks winning and beating the Oilers? And you need like 4 things to go perfectly. You need to be way more than a 1.5 line team. You need Pettersson to beat Draisaitl. You need Seelovs to beat Skinner. And you need your skill to win. And with the top heavy skill that the Oilers have, I don't see it. I can't navigate a road that gets me there.
Yeah, and when we talked to Quads earlier in the week, he kind of lined up the same thing. He was like, if the Canucks are going to win this series in 7, you need, obviously, Elias Pettersson to be better. You need the power play to be better. You need to keep the Oilers off their own power play, because I don't think that's a matter of your penalty kill just magically figuring out the Oilers. I think you have to limit the amount of opportunities you give them as well. What are you most concerned about?
So I guess the fear is, and to quote Sheldon Keefe, is to make sure Tocchet doesn't coach the Canucks to play a style of game that allow the Oilers to beat themselves. Did I get to the final destination?
Yeah, I think you did.
It was the fear?
It was about as confusing as when Keefe said it, but I pick up what you're putting down.
So I had to say it. Well, for me, I guess it'll come down to goaltending. I guess you can't take, I'm going to butcher it, Seelovs?
Yep.
Yes, Seelovs.
You can't take him for granted. Granted, he's their third string, but you saw what he did for Latvia at the Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So he can carry a team on his back. So that's going to be, to me, like the biggest kind of X factor in terms of whether this is going to be a 5-game series or a 7-game series. Am I a homer? Yes. Do I think the Oilers are going to destroy the Canucks? Yes. And in 5 games. I can't see any other way. I'm high off round 1.
Yeah.
They were able to show us that they can close it around early and not beat themselves like they did the previous 2 years against the Kings. So it looks like they've cleaned that up. They've learned to lose. So they know the importance of getting shit done pronto.
I think one thing that's given me confidence in the Oilers coming into the series is every win in that first round was pretty different. Like they didn't just like outscore their problems the whole time.
It wasn't 7-4, 7-2, 7-6.
Yeah, it's kind of uncharacteristic, I guess you could say, from what we've known the Oilers to be. So that's why I'm confident for the Oilers. Is I think they're going to be able to dictate what happens out there.
We can live in the uncomfortable of a low scoring game.
Yes,
you're going to have to.
Yeah,
because that's the part about the first round series between Canucks and Preds that I think a lot of people got wrong. They were like, this is Nashville gumming up the works, and that it was actually Vancouver trying to play that way. And I don't think people think about Miller and Pettersson and Besser and Hughes and all these guys that they have that are skilled, and they say, well, why on earth would Vancouver want to play that way? But that's that, plus they really utilize the size on their back end to really try and change the way Nashville played. And to your point, Jay, and that's really what could be part of their game plan, and I would expect to be part of their game plan moving forward here, is to try and find some way to slow down the Oilers. But the problem with that is they just faced the Kings in the first round, who did is different stylistic way to do it, but they picked through it with ease. And so how much more difficult could you really make it? I expect the challenge to be tougher because they have different ways to beat you that the Kings didn't, but That's the hard part about trying to size all this up.
The Canucks were one of the higher scoring teams in the league in the regular season, 6th in goals for per game. Do you think, because if they wanted to get into a track meet against the Predators, they probably could have been successful. Nashville's a league average offense, and no disrespect to Forsberg and Yossi and all them, but that's not a forward group that strikes a lot of fear into you.
Although Ian McIntyre took a ribbing yesterday from Oilers fans on social media.
Yes.
But he pointed out, though, that from the last 40 games of the season, halfway through, the Preds had the second highest scoring offense.
That is a decent point, and they went on that 18-game point streak or whatever. But do you think there was a part of it from the Canucks that maybe we're using that series to say, hey, this is how we're going to have to play to get through Edmonton, so let's play this way to get through Nashville?
Maybe. I could see that. That's kind of what I was getting at.
Yeah. Nashville gave us the playbook on how to shut down Vancouver, but also I think just playoff hockey shuts down Vancouver. Like they're still green in this space.
I wonder how much that matters.
Well, but why does Pettersson turn into a ghost?
That just might be his own nature.
In playoffs to turn into a ghost, or just he's streaky? I don't know enough. Like I know he's.
We don't know enough because no one really no one's really seen it.
Is Hughes hurt, and like is that having an impact? Well, that should be part of our game plan, is make sure that he feels uncomfortable.
Well, that's the one part about what Nashville did that I think the Oilers should really try and replicate, is they physically punished Hughes and Hronek when they were on the ice. They were sending 2 upwards of 3 players on their forecheck, and they made life really miserable for him. And as a result, he wasn't nearly as impactful at the other end of the ice, even with the puck on his stick, which theoretically should have no bearing on that.
That'll be
Gotta
interesting.
give the Derek Ryan treatment.
Oh, it just gets blown up every time he touches the puck. But the physicality, Frank, I think that'll be interesting from an Oilers side, because they weren't overly physical. They were physical, but not like, there wasn't a lot of scrums in that LA series. They really just allowed LA to do that and then took advantage of the penalties that they all got, right? So I'd be intrigued to see how that changes for the Oilers. Do you get in that kind of battle, or do you just allow Vancouver to make those mistakes and then the power play comes up?
Well, they were also really timely against Nashville in terms of they didn't get very many shots, but when they did get them, they made them count, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it was kind of like that, a bit of a waiting game. Like, hey, we're going to wait for our opportunities, and then when we get them, we're going to pounce. We may only have 20 shots on goal. And they were comfortable, but 13 of the 20 that they had in one game were high danger. And you go, okay, maybe that's a recipe for success, quality instead of quantity.
Yeah, that's fair. That Canucks, you mentioned the Canucks being a 1.5 line team. Is that how you describe them? I was looking into the numbers from the first series against the Predators. JT Miller spent the bulk of his 5-on-5 time going up against Forsberg and O'Reilly, and that Predators top line did a decent job on paper of shutting them down. They only scored 1 goal against him in the 50-some minutes, 49-odd minutes that they played head-to-head, but the Miller didn't have a goal for in that time either. So
that feels like a good story on OilersNation.com.
Yeah, maybe it'll drop later this afternoon. But below Miller, Pettersson is an obvious example. But who else there do you kind of look at and be like, boy, they need a lot more from them than they got in round 1? I'm asking you this just because, again, you followed it closely.
Everyone.
Like,
did Ilya Mikheyev even play in the series?
Yeah.
Honestly, I didn't notice him at all.
Do you give Pettersson a bit of a break because Mikheyev and Höglander were subpar? No.
You're either a driver when you make $11.5 million or you're not.
That's fair.
You don't get any, hey, well, my line mates suck.
Well,
that's not how it works.
And then not to say
Pettersson is not Sid, right?
But Sid can literally take 2 handbags and produce.
Yeah. Is that like a skirt comment, John Cooper, or no? 2 handbags?
We're gonna issue an apology right now.
No, just like just dead weight.
Okay.
Hand weights. I don't know.
Sure.
I don't know what we're
Doug,
going with
weights. Doug weights.
A couple as well, but Dougie Weight, are you kidding? 2 Doug weights. Jeez, that's a
I'm kidding.
300-point line.
What's up, Nation citizens? If you like that video, then you need to be subscribed to the Oilers Nation YouTube. Podcasts, live shows, exclusive interviews, and analysis. Everything you need from your favorite voices at Oilers Nation. And you don't want to miss any of it, so hammer that subscribe button.